Hi guys, it's Phil.
And Liam.
From Die Hard on a Blank, and we're excited to talk to you about a brand new podcast we're launching called 48 Hours of Buddy Movies.
That's right, folks. 48-hour-long...
approximately.
...episodes exploring 48 different buddy movies, beginning with the original classic that started it all, Walter Hill's 1982 masterpiece, 48 Hours, starring Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy.
And just like Die Hard on a Blank, our new show will explore the influence of 48 Hours on the action genre, one buddy movie at a time.
We'll be covering iconic franchises such as the Beverly Hills Cop movies, the Stakeout movies, the Bad Boys movies, classics of the genre like Running Scared,
Hyams Hive Rise Up,
Midnight Run, Red Heat, Tango and Cash, The Hard Way,
plus tough thrillers such as To Live and Die in LA, Black Rain, Point Break, Training Day, and The Way of the Gun.
As well as a few wild cards that you might not expect, such as RoboCop, Alien Nation, and, of course, Phil's favorite,
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
So if you're a fan of two buddies talking buddy movies,
then 48 Hours of Buddy Movies is for you.
Visit patreon.com/48 Hours of Buddy Movies to subscribe for the price of 1 cup of coffee a month.
See you in the squad car.
Or walking to the squad car, mildly irritated that we've been paired off.
Wherever. That's patreon.com/48 Hours of Buddy Movies to subscribe. Welcome to Die Hard on a Blank, the podcast where we explore the influence of Die Hard on action cinema, one action movie at a time. I'm Philip Gordon, and with me as always is Liam Billingham, and today's film is The Raid, aka The Raid Redemption.
It's Die Hard in a gangster tower that's also kind of a haunted house. I don't know. There's a lot of ways we could think about this here building.
You know, I was going to say that we've talked about how things have kind of come full circle, and this really is now the point where it's Die Hard in a building.
Yeah, it's Die Hard
so
in a building.
It has just come back full.
It's Die Hard in a building.
Circle,
it really
which
has,
is also our next movie as well. Is also Die Hard in a building.
At some point, some studio execs were like, "What about Die Hard but in a building?"
It literally happened. It literally has that. Apparently, that has happened to certain people. Anyway, to break this movie down, we have enlisted an old friend of the show, and someone who we know is a huge fan of this particular motion picture. Please welcome to the show, Jason Kleeburg. How are you, sir?
What's going on, gentlemen? I am so excited to talk about The Raid, and I'm so excited that you just gave me another excuse to watch The Raid again. I've seen it probably like 6 or 7 times in my lifetime, and I'll watch it many more.
Wow.
So this came about because Jason was kind enough to ask me on his podcast, the Force 5 podcast, to do an episode on top 5 henchmen, which was absolutely delightful. Jason, you're a writer, you're a podcaster. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself briefly and your show and your forays into the world of film and broadcasting?
Yeah, well, I got started like many film connoisseurs as a video store clerk way back in the day,
brother,
back when those existed.
Yeah.
And, I've always said if I ever struck it rich, I'd open up a video store and just lose money because I just wouldn't care. All I want to do is talk movies. And, Liam, I know you agree with me on that one. And through the pandemic, it was really tough to talk movies with people. So I came up with a podcast idea where the idea is really that I force my guests to come up with a movie-related top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. And Phil, your show is a great one to start with top 5 henchmen. That was a really fun one to do. And in the meantime, I'm writing scripts. I'm doing some YouTube stuff now, some short form video. Just trying to revisit some films from my video store days and looking at movies that maybe people have never even heard of before. I just did a video on the 1983 TV special called Great Day, which like 30 people have logged on Letterboxd and stars a very early Bill Paxton. It's
man.
fun.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Phil, when you did your list, I can't remember, was Mad Dog one of your henchmen?
Well, this was the funny thing because Jason said, oh, I think he went first with this one. And he was, so my next pick is Mad Dog. And I was like, what? Because I had Mad Dog from Hard Boiled. And I thought we were going to be having a Mad Dog problem.
There is a Mad Dog in Hard Boiled.
But it turned out there were two different Mad Dogs. But this is when I remember that Jason was such a big fan of The Raid, and we talked that when we eventually got to it, we definitely wanted to
I gotta say,
give him a call.
Mad Dog fucking rules, dude. Mad Dog in both Hard Boiled, but I'm speaking specifically. He has the best line in the movie, in my opinion.
And the funny thing is, if a character is called Mad Dog, you got to really back that up. You know what I mean?
You can't fuck that up.
He does.
He can't be a poodle. He can't be a poodle after the fact, yeah.
So, Jason, we always start by asking our guests about their relationship with this particular film that we're discussing. Do you remember when you first saw this one and the impact that it had on you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge action movie fan. It's my favorite genre, and fight movies are one of my favorite subgenres. So I grew up on the stuff from Jackie Chan and Jet Li and, unfortunately, Steven Seagal, but those are the kind of movies that I gravitated towards.
It depends on the movie, right?
Don't start off with an aggressive statement on the show. Yeah, there's two good ones. The ones directed by Andrew Davis are good. Yeah. Let's be real.
All right. I'll give him that. I'll give him up to Under Siege. Up through Under Siege,
decision
Die
as well
Hard.
Still counts.
No on deadly ground love in this room.
Justice for
the
Clipperman?
John C. McKinley? Is he in that one?
Yeah, John C. McKinley. That one's Michael Caine is the bad guy in that one. So, anyways.
Yes.
So you saw this one did you see it on the big screen the first time?
I did, yeah. So I heard a lot of really cool stuff coming out of TIFF because I think it premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, and I heard so many good things about it. It was like a fighting style I wasn't super familiar with. So opening night, I was traveling for work. I found a theater in Baltimore, which was like an hour away from where I was working. So I went. Opening night, I was literally the only person in the theater watching this movie. And side note, I also saw The Raid 2 on opening night. Same deal. I was the only person in the theater, but I was blown away by just the kinetic action in this movie, and the way that pace was incredible. I'd never heard of the filmmaker. I'd never heard of his first film, Marantau, and instantly, like, I got back home, hit my friend up, my best friend who's into the same types of flicks I am, and I'm like, let's go see it. So I found a theater in San Francisco. He came with me. Again, the only two in the theater. Still strange, but amazing experience again. And I just can't get enough of just the way the action is shot. To me, it is one of the best action movies ever made. And if I was to make a top 5 list of action movies, this might sit right at the top, right up there with Die Hard.
Wow. Well, chill your boots.
Hey, Phil, it's all right. He said the thing about Steven Seagal, but we don't have to hold it against him the whole time.
No, we want these fiery, spiky debates. I'm only kidding. It is a magnificent movie. I was unfamiliar with it. I'll just do my history, and it's actually because of Jason that I was. I was aware of it, but I remember when we did when I did Jason's show Force 5, and this came up. I'd known about The Raid for a long time, and I was intended to do it, but I'd never seen it. So I thought, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to be patient, and I'll wait until we eventually cover it on the show, and then here we are. I will say, it's kind of what I expected. You know, I was like, I'd seen the trailers. I was like, wow, I love the cultural specificity of this. I love that it takes place in a very specific part of the world that we don't typically see that often in Western cinema. So it's in Indonesia, right? And where exactly is it again, Jason? It
takes place in Jakarta.
Right. Okay. So I loved the vibe of it, and I thought, well, this is really, really interesting and specific. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to be really honest about it. Okay. My reaction to this film was, this is a brilliant film that I don't particularly like.
Oh,
If
interesting.
How
if
measured?
If
How
those
measured?
two things can, I'll expand on that a bit later. But I was like, this is a dazzling piece of work. It's extraordinary filmmaking. But there's also a sort of thing where that it's just pure the difference between the objective and the subjective. For me, I was just like, this isn't actually my cup of tea, but I totally dig and respect what this is. And I think it's like an amazing example of what it is. It's just that that's not really for me. And I've seen many great films where that's an amazing film. It's just not one that it's not aimed at me, weirdly, for an action fan. How did you feel about it, Liam? And did you have a history with this one?
I remember when it came out, I was in New York City. I was like a little bit, I was at probably among my most pretentious movie-going phases when this movie came out. So, because it's 2009? No. This movie is 11.
2011
yeah.
at
so
Toronto.
I was just starting film school and like
later.
didn't actually have as much time to go to the movies. I was like in class all the time, and when I was, it was like stuff for school or whatever. So I didn't see this in the theater. The first time I actually watched this movie, appropriately enough, was on a treadmill training for a half marathon. I watched the entire thing on a treadmill on Netflix running to do this half marathon. And so it was kind of like a diversion from what I was doing. So I wasn't like super thinking about it critically. I was like, I need something that's going to kind of distract me from the fucking hell that is running on a treadmill for 2 hours. So then I rewatched it again this weekend. And I kind of knew what your feelings were before I watched it, Phil. So I wouldn't say
interesting.
That didn't color my experience of it, but I think it is it's really good at what it's doing and what it's trying to achieve. I think watching it in light of the fact that we are running to the end of this process of watching all these Die Hard inspired movies has me thinking about it probably in a less generous way than I would where I just kind of like, I'm going to throw on The Raid tonight. Because
it feels like an inflection point, doesn't it? Like in what we're doing?
Well, and I think like we can get into this now or later, but I think the history of fight films, as Jason put it, is like really interesting. And I think this is the movie that blows the lid off the latest generation of these kinds of movies because, I didn't grow up with Van Damme. I didn't. My dad did not like Van Damme, so we didn't watch Van Damme. I didn't grow up. My dad hated Chuck Norris. Like, wouldn't. I remember renting Sidekicks and him like
we just
leaving
lost.
the room.
We should,
we
because
just
we're
passed
all
away.
on, and I think there's
It's
there's a lot of respect for Chuck.
But I just didn't.
But I had the same experience. Like,
I didn't grow up with
some
it.
of it is pretty.
It's not my cup of tea. So like, I did see a lot of
right
Jackie.
wing.
Yeah, I did see a lot of Jackie Chan growing up, and but I was never like a total fight movie fan, so this isn't like native to my love of these kinds of movies. But I mean, you would be like, if this is your jam, this movie rocks. Like,
and it's interesting. I think the distinction that you make, Jason, of calling it a fight film as opposed to an action film. I know it's like a subtle distinction. Of course, it's both. But I think if you think about it on those terms, it's like it makes me like it more somehow.
It's not,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not an action movie as we have defined it.
Yes.
I think that's and that is why I think we're bumping up against it because it is not. My thought on this movie is like, this is so well made and absolutely in a way not for me. And I'm just going to confess something on this show. I don't like the John Wick movies.
Dear.
I've never been able to
wow.
I have never been able to finish a John Wick movie. Again, this is not that I think they're badly made. I think that they're extraordinarily made, and I love Keanu. But I hit a point where he's like fighting the 80th guy, and I'm like, I'm bored. And like I mean I know that's crazy, but like I literally have not been able to finish the first John Wick, and I've tried 3 times, and it's not like this is bad. It's just not my cup of tea.
It's just not for you.
Yeah.
I love the John, even though I'm less of a fan of this one, The Raid. I love the John Wick series. And I in some ways maybe I shouldn't like them by this rationale, but to me there's like a subtle difference. But it's worth bringing it up because you can draw a straight line between this movie and John Wick and the direction that the action cinema goes. But let's get some fast facts on the table before we get into all of that in more detail. This film was Written, edited, and directed by Gareth Evans. Now, I might struggle with some of these names. I don't know if you feel confident to help me out, Jason, someone who's more familiar with some of these names.
Never
I don't
have
want
I been happier that I don't write the outline for the show.
I just don't want to mispronounce them because I hate doing that. And unfortunately, I can mangle people's names and I don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce the lead actor's name?
I believe it's Iko Uwais.
Okay.
I think that's correct. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Jason.
And it's Joe Taslim, Donny Alamsia, and Yayan Ruhian. Is that hopefully that's at least in the ballpark?
Yep.
Are some of the leads in this film. The release date, as you mentioned, was September 8th, 2011 in Toronto, the Toronto Film Festival. Then a wider release, 23rd of March, 2012, Indonesia and the US. Budget 1.1 million box office.
Jesus Christ,
which is crazy.
I know,
Amazing.
they made it in Indonesia, which probably drives the cost down, but like, are you kidding me? I mean, unbelievable.
And the box office, 9.3 million, which might not sound like much, but you think about that to scale of the budget.
Also.
An extraordinary haul. Plus, in the US, the film grossed 10.1 million on DVD and Blu-ray. It does really feel like one of those movies that it's like such a sort of night with the boys movie, like crack some tinnies and turn this on.
Totally.
It's like that type of thing. So it's,
take a gummy and watch this movie. You're gonna be like in space. It's incredible. Are you kidding?
endlessly rewatchable. I think if this is your type of as you said, you watched it so many times. But why are we talking about it on this show? Well, we will elucidate that in a section that we like to call. Liam.
Die Hard DNA.
Just checking you're still here.
No, I'm here. I just I was checking my
Googling
recording.
some facts.
I was checking I was checking.
You were
my
doing your
recording.
job as a producer. As well as a co-host.
I was also just thinking about getting high and watching this movie, I'm going to be honest.
This is all starting to feel, this whole show is now having this last day at school energy.
Yeah. Let's pull it back in. Let's pull it back in.
Let's do our jobs. Let's do our job. This is a serious business.
It's part of a
discussing
movie
action
podcast.
films.
Okay.
Now, why are we discussing it on this program? Well, the events of the film are almost entirely confined to a single building on a single day. The hero is a young cop who is in a sort of fish out of water in this particular situation. The bad guy has a brain trust of advisors and one particularly vicious henchman to do his bidding, as we talked about, the aforementioned
highlight
Mad
of the film,
Dog.
baby.
The cop hero ends up behind enemy lines and trapped in a building filled with dozens of bad guys all trying to kill him. The building itself, I would say, has a personality of sorts and kind of feels like its own character, and a little bit like the Nakatomi in the sense of it being almost like a Russian doll, or has these other secrets and hidden things contained within it. The building itself has its own character. The police are frequently portrayed as morally dubious. Many of them are not valorous, and at times they're ruthless, cruel, corrupt, and or incompetent. There is a long suspense sequence where a bad guy stalks the corridors with a machete, looking for cops who are hiding. And I noticed this little detail where he was like clinking his weapon very purposefully.
Shit rocks.
A scene that really recalled for me that suspense sequence in Die Hard where Carl is hunting McClane as he hides quietly in the air duct, pressing his weapon, the barrel of his gun against the metal, etc., in a very menacing but methodical way. The hero is a skilled improviser who is adept at creating improvised explosive devices. Note the scene where he creates a bomb out of a fridge. Brilliant. I love that bit.
This movie rocks the more we talk about it.
The more
What
we're
am I talking
the more
about?
I'm like,
What's wrong with me?
Fuck Die Hard. This movie's the best. This is
New
the best thing
podcast.
ever.
Raid and a
New podcast.
blank.
Fuck Die Hard.
I have a whole new personality, and it's the movie The Raid.
Welcome to the club.
Amazing.
Exactly.
A final showdown involving Mexican standoffs and characters being used as human shields. There's also a scene in an elevator where one character absolutely murks the other people in the elevator with a burst of close proximity extreme violence, recalling the elevator scene in Die Hard with a Vengeance, where McClane kills several bad guys also in close proximity. That's all I got. Kind of a lot. Anything,
I have one more.
You have something to add?
Well, I got
Dr. Ryan?
Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, in interviews, the director, Evans, has said that when he wrote the script, he was thinking Die Hard plus Assault on Precinct 13 plus Silat. So you've got like a mixture of all three.
A lot of Carpenter in this movie. For sure. The other thing I thought of is that there's one of my favorite bits in this whole movie is, and one that I really want to discuss further is when the guy slips the handcuffs up between his feet, and first of all, he's wearing a white tank top that gets bloodied throughout. And secondly, he also pretends to be a victim, and he's like, "Oh, they're back there," and then he pulls the gun and shoots the guy. It's very much Theo at the beginning of the movie, talking about the basketball, like sort of redirects. So there's a couple dudes in white tank tops in this movie, and their tank tops get absolutely bloodied.
A high tank top count.
Yeah, exactly.
It does make sense aesthetically as well to have a white tank top, because you can do things with it. It can have blood or oil or grime or go against it. So always kind of works.
The bad guy's wearing a white tank top. The villain under his button-down shirt is wearing a white tank top as well.
Tank tops all over. We'll get the stats from the lab. Can you go and check the tank top stats? Thanks. Yeah, just have a quick word with the interns.
Get those back. Get them back.
We'll have them do some data pulling on that.
Stupid joke.
They're funny enough, as you texted me today, that actually I was in the middle of a meeting and there was a power cut. So, we keep making these jokes about the
and now they're coming true.
Now they're actually coming true what the lab is doing. Anyway, we can't talk about it too much, but we'll be back with Anatomy of an Action Movie after this quick break. And we're back with our main section of the show, Anatomy of an Action Movie, where we explore the tenets.
We live in a twilight world.
There are no friends at dusk of an action motion picture, starting with the premise. Now, I'm sorry, I haven't really given you too much opportunity to speak. I do apologize, Jason, but trust me, your time is coming to cook on this movie. I just need to lay the table a touch here with the premise. So, the premise of this film, The Raid. By the way, just do you know I did research it, but I'm curious if you might know in a bit more detail the distinction between it being called The Raid versus The Raid Redemption in some territories. Do you know the backstory of that, just to tie that one off?
Yeah, as far as I understand, Sony just couldn't get the rights to The Raid in North America, so they put The Raid Redemption in play, thinking that they could also have sequels to it with different subtitles. But that's what I understand. The short of it is that Sony just couldn't get The Raid.
No one refers to this movie as The Raid Redemption.
Right.
And in fact, the poster's like, The Raid Redemption.
It's confusing because I was like, is this the sequel or is this the first one?
No, it was like, I remember it kind of being a marketing, like, not snafu,
weird.
But I think people were like, why is this called that? I do think there is a little justification for the redemption in it, but it's not. It's not like
we'll get there. So the premise is
we're going to get there. We'll get there.
The character of Rama, played by did you say Iko Uwais? Iko Uwais. Is a young police officer in the Mobile Brigade Corps, Indonesia's spec-ops paramilitary tactical unit. Rama is part of a small NBC squad who are tasked with assaulting an impenetrable Jakarta slum ruled by the notorious gangster Tama Riyadi, played by Ray Sahetapy, who rules the building with an iron fist. The goal is to extract and arrest Tama, but the bungled operation quickly goes to hell, and soon Rama and what's left of his unit find themselves trapped in the building, facing overwhelming opposition from Tama's hordes of henchmen. Okay. I usually ask a question here about what this movie is about, but I'm going to hold that. I want to holster that side on for just a second. And I think I want to give you a bit of space, Jason, as our esteemed guest, to tell us like why you love this film so much, why you're so passionate about it, and why it really does it for you.
There are very few fight films that I've ever seen with a pace as frantic and as kinetic as this. Liam, you watch this on a treadmill. That's not a bad way to watch this movie because it's literally going 100 miles an hour pretty much the whole time. There are very few moments where things settle down and calm down for a minute. And when I'm watching a fight film, that's what I want to see. I'm not watching a Scott Adkins movie because I think the story is going to be great. If it is, that's a bonus. But I'm watching it because I want to see Scott Adkins kick some ass. And that's what I want to see when I watch a movie like this. Now, I was totally unfamiliar, like I said, with Evans at the time. I didn't know anything about the movie going in. I don't watch trailers, so I'm going in completely blind. And from just about, 15 minutes in, you can tell you're watching something completely different. And it feels as they escalate in the building, things escalate for them. It's almost video game-ish, where you're going, you start on level 1, and that's easy. They breeze through 2, 3, 4. They get to 5, stuff starts to get real. And then as they go up, it's, floor 6, you got the machete guys. Floor
the
7,
end of level bosses, right? Yeah.
yeah. You got the drug lab on floor 8, and things just keep ramping up. And then there are so many sequences in here that you've probably seen done in other movies. If you've seen as many kung fu movies and fight flicks as I have, but you've never seen them quite this way. And I think a part of it that really draws me to it is the unbridled brutality in this movie. There are scenes that could have been shot one way, and Gareth Evans chose to do it in a much more brutal way. And I'm thinking of there's just a real quick clip of a guy getting his head smashed into the wall as it goes down the wall, and you see just first it's a light, and then it's a tile and a tile and a tile, and it's all breaking as it happens. There's another one where he kind of like diamond cutters, if you're familiar with wrestling, a guy onto a door frame on the bottom of the door frame. And it's like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. And it just
having a tough time over here,
up.
guys.
I guess we've got a little, we've gone soft, Liam. Like, I was like, I joked that my dad was going to watch this through a cushion, but I was watching it from behind a cushion.
Kind of personal question. How old are you?
I'm 44.
Okay. Because I sometimes wonder, we're the same age, basically, but I sometimes wonder if, like, part of the reason this movie is so celebrated is because it's like, because we're like, we sort of we as dudes kind of predate the video game generation, like by a hair. Like we remember like Nintendo and Genesis and stuff like that. But like I personally feel like I remember a time kind of before that. And I often wonder if this movie is really popular for people who are now like 35 because they were like, it's a video game. Right, which is not a bad thing about it at all, but the logic of this movie follows a much more popular medium than the one that was so popular when we were kids, right? Like that's something I think about a lot because it is kind of a video game, which is not a diss. Like that's what it's doing.
We talked about
building on itself
on the Patreon. How like Big Trouble in Little China, for example, kind of created the modern video game. You know, it's like
the double dragon,
rescue a princess,
bad dudes
from all these different corridors where you face all these different kind of assailants.
He's a huge gamer too.
Yeah,
Carpenter loves video games.
So again, the genealogy of that to me is very interesting. So. Sorry, I cut you off there. Was there anything you wanted to say about why it really does it for you?
Yeah, there's just sometimes you have this experience in the theater where you're sitting something and you're watching it for the first time and you're thinking to yourself, this is going to change the future of this genre a bit. Yeah, I had that when I watched 100%. The Matrix, where I watched The Matrix and then you see the DNA of Matrix and everything. Obviously Die Hard, the same way, which is, where your whole show is about. But I watched The Raid and I thought, man, this is going to be the future of what action movies are probably going to look like and what I'm going to be loving for the next 10 years. And it hasn't been as widespread, but I don't think it's because people don't want to. I think it's just because they don't have the skill to do it. And you can see it with stuff like Atomic Blonde and the John Wick movies where there is, like you said, that direct line. And you've seen way more of that since The Raid came out. But I don't think it's because they don't want to make movies like this. I think they just can't make movies like this because it's so incredibly done.
Yeah. Well, and the majority of the ones you see come out of Indonesia. There's, like sort of Asia broadly. That's where a lot of these movies are made. You look at something like 13 Assassins, right? Which is different but similar, kind of in the samurai vein. But like, last year's Shadow Strays, which I watched and very similar, very kick-ass movie, right? But sort of similar, not as much of a story, a little more vibes based than some of these later ones. But I kind of follow these movies because of guys like Brandon Streising, who was on our episode before, who's like a big martial arts movie guy, right? And that's where I kind of get the that's why I watch Shadow Strays, for example, because he recommended it. And it's like, they haven't infiltrated mainstream Hollywood because they're too intense, they're too brutal. Like, Hollywood doesn't think they can sell a movie like this in the same way. I think that, like, you're totally right that this invented a new paradigm. I think it sort of combines like really extreme continuity and violence with, like, you know, what Bruce Lee did in the 70s and 80s and what Jackie Chan did in the 80s and 90s. Like, it's a whole new, much more intense. At times this is almost a horror movie.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's not
Which is interesting.
Rocks. Yeah, totally. But it's like, I think that it's kind of like the new wave of this kind of movie. Like in the same way that there was like the French extreme cinema, it's like in that paradigm.
And you were dead right to have that prediction, Jason, because it is absolutely was a game. This is a game changer for the whole genre. You know, so it's an important film and it's an amazingly realized vision. If I may, I think I'm going to offer I feel really bad, honestly, Jason, because I'm like, I don't want to. This is not what I'm not a meanie Bo Beanie looking here to bash people's
at least
bash
on
anybody's films. I've been pretty. Look, we found things to love about Under Siege 2, about Chill Factor, films that are maligned. But I have to sort of. I have to be honest with you guys about my issues with the film. Because for me, I was thinking about this. Say the comparison piece would be Hard Boiled, right? Connecting with the Mad Dog thing. But the reason I love Hard Boiled is not, believe it or not, because of the action. It's because of the characters, and it's because of the lyricism of the film. I actually love that more. That I love how we meet the character of Tequila, the Chow Yun-fat character. I love the melancholy that Tony Leung's character is ensconced in, and there are two sort of lonely, troubled men who have got their kind of existential crises that they're trying to kind of work through in different ways, who make this alliance and to take on this evil arms dealer. Obviously the action is incredible, but it's the characters and the mood that for me is the takeaway. So it's not action alone doesn't do it for me. In this film, for me, I feel like the lack of the lack of the characterization and the lack of the story. And I know you said very fairly, that's not what you're here for, right? You're not here for story. You're here for the choreography and the stunts and the vibe and the inventiveness of the fights. Which, fair enough. But just for me, it leaves me kind of feeling like it's a sort of empty feeling. And, you know, it's not that I don't like fight films, you know, and what you said earlier about Van Damme. I'll give an example of what I think is an amazing fight film is Lionheart. Which is known as AWOL in some territories, including England, the 1990 Van Damme, 1990-91 Van Damme film. Yeah. The story's amazing. The story is, and it's actually incredibly moving at the end of the film, and it's an immigrant story, and it's and the relationship with the trainer, the Joshua character, is incredible. The guy's like doing Oscar-worthy acting at one point, literally in one scene towards the end of the film, the Joshua character, and it's about this guy who is, a legionnaire who ends up sort of to rescue his brother, ends up on a boat, lands in the US, so you have this sort of immigrant aspect to it, and starts at zero, and it's like living on the streets and just trying to figure it out and kind of scrapping his way up. So it's like this American dream story, and he gets involved with the family. It's a beautiful ending, and it has, I don't know, it's structured around like about 7 different fights, but to me it has a real emotional heart to it. So for me, I could care less about dudes getting punched in the face ad nauseum. I can enjoy that if I'm interested in or care about the characters involved in those situations. I'll give I use this phrase. I had a meeting. It's this horrible sort of, not trying to name drop, but it as it's come up. So relatively recently, I met with Chad Stahelski, and he used this expression. Who's director of the John Wick series and the steward of that franchise, and he had used this expression: heavy on story, light on plot. That was the sort of philosophy of the company. We talked about this in our LA Confidential episode on the Patreon recently about the difference between story and plot. John Wick films do, in my opinion, have a great story, and they do have an emotional heart, and you're invested because you get to meet that character and spend time with him before he's effing dudes up for 4 hours straight, right? You actually really care. And in the first one, you're invested in his emotional journey to get revenge. It's a revenge movie. As the series goes on, it expands the character's backstory. It jumps around the world. And I thought the fourth one was an absolute masterpiece. I thought it was mesmerizing. I loved it. To me, that did marry the two things really, really well. Incredible stunt choreography and incredibly inventive action sequences with a character that you had rooting emotional interest in, and a story that was on a big canvas that was very, very interesting. Where I struggle with this film, and I'll be quiet in a second. The last point I wanted to make, though, the character of the lieutenant, who's the sort of silver-haired guy. When he first shows up, I was like, oh, this dude, this is great. He's like just wearing a polo shirt. He didn't have a helmet. I'm like, this guy's like a badass, because everyone else is in like full tactical gear, and he just looked like he made him look so cool, and it sort of delineated him from the rest of the squad. And I was, oh, this character is really interesting. But then within 30 seconds, he shoots a child in cold blood. So it's like, who's like a spotter for the, right, and he makes the count of like, I'm doing what we have to do. We have to get this guy. He would have ratted us out, kind of thing. But it's like, but now I hate this character. He's done something irredeemable. I find with this film, there's a sort of cloud of nihilism over the whole thing, where every character is horrible, and the only character that is slightly likable, the main character, has two tiny bits of relatively superficial characterization. He has a wife and baby at home, and he is a devout. Is he a Muslim? Yeah. You see him practicing his religion, right? Briefly. Mm-hmm. That's it. We know nothing else about him, and everyone else is just like, there's very little to distinguish them. So just for me, as somebody that loves story and has no qualms with on-screen violence or like prolonged action sequences, I just need to feel invested. I just need to feel like I care if I'm going to watch 80 minutes of carnage. That's my 2 cents. At the same time, I recognize I'm watching it being like, the filmmaking is unbelievable, and the direction is absolutely superb. And I mean literally, like how he orients you geographically. Like there's a scene where it falls through, because a lot of the building looks very similar, so you could get geographically lost. But he's so skilled at orienting you on the geography. When they fall down and you realize, I think there's a rug on the floor, so you're clear that, oh, this is a different room. Mm-hmm. Little details. It's like incredibly well directed. Obviously, you don't need me to praise. This film has been lavished with praise. He's an incredibly important and astonishingly talented filmmaker. It's just, for me, I would love it to be this filmmaker with a different storyteller, and then it's like sky's the limit. To me, it does become a little bit two-dimensional, which is a shame, because the talent and the filmmaking is exemplary. That's just how I struggle with it. I struggle with it a bit, and I've got some interesting reviews here, but that'd be worth talking about. But I want to give you a chance to speak, Liam. Your thoughts on the movie? Is it about anything? Did it do anything? How did you just sort of viscerally feel about it, or intellectually feel about it?
So I actually read this really interesting. I read a lot of Letterboxd reviews of this movie, right? Because a lot of people just throw 5 stars at this movie, which I get. Like, and people are like, our buddy Jason Bailey and I were texting, and I was like, I don't know if I like this movie, and he was like, are you fucking nuts? Like, that was basically his response to me, which fair enough. But I read this little piece by Justin LaLiberty, who wrote about how this movie is almost like total cinema, like the idea that like it almost doesn't have a story, and maybe it doesn't need a story. And that got me reading there's an essay by Andre Bazin, the theorist, about like what is cinema, right? And like his idea was that movies were the closest things that could replicate realism. That like a movie could be realistic if you filmed it in a way where with deep focus, so everything's in focus, and you're sort of watching reality play out. And that got me thinking a little bit about this. And it reminded me of a film from the 93 film, maybe you know better than me, by Alan Clark, the very famous British filmmaker, called Elephant. Have either of you guys heard of Elephant?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with
Gus Van Sant.
I was going to say, I knew that one.
Gus Van Sant's Element is inspired by Alan Clark's Elephant. It's a 42-minute movie that is tracking shots of guys getting shot.
Oh.
No story, but someone walks down the street, kills someone, and then it starts over again. And this continues for 42 minutes. And it is a movie about the IRA.
I've heard of this.
It's about the IRA and the futility. But there's no story. There's nothing that tells you this is a movie about the IRA. If you read about Alan Clark and you read about what the context for and sort of this bigger picture. I watched that film like a decade ago, just kind of on a Saturday night. I got some pizza and I watched this short film. You can watch it. It's very easy.
Man.
I'm a sick fuck. It's very easy. I think my daughter was asleep in the next room, but it's experimental cinema, right? It's experimental.
It's almost like an art installation.
It is in a lot of ways,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's definitely worth watching. I think it's like $1 on Amazon Prime, and or one of those services. And I was this got me thinking, like, what if this movie had no story? What if this movie just started and it was literally just the raid? Because there is a really compelling thing that happens at the beginning of this movie, is that he says, "I'll get him back," and you're like, who's he? And then you figure out, in my opinion, far too quickly what we're talking about and where we're going with that. That's just my opinion. The side of that. So then I was sort of like thinking, like, my two. I'm not trying to. I think this is an incredibly effective movie. I totally get what really I think the appeal. And Jason, you can tell me I'm wrong. Is like I want to watch sick fights, and that's cool and that's great. I think my two sort of thoughts are: one, get rid of the story entirely and just like play it out almost non-verbally for an hour and 30 minutes and cut the dialogue, because there's really only like 10 minutes of dialogue in this entire movie. Or I think there's a little bit of a misstep in the decision to not have the police show out upside the building, and I want to see the police, like the response to this on the street. Like I wanted more of the backstory. The most interesting thing to me of this movie is like, what is going on here? Who is this crime boss? Is he like a Whitey Bulger who's giving information?
Right.
Like is he giving information to the cops the whole time? Like I really appreciated, in a way, the minimalist kind of decision to just like let you figure that out in these long takes where people are just talking to each other. But there was also another part of me that like wanted the symphonic kind of like inside outside quality of Die Hard. Like, and as we're wrapping up the show, I kind of wanted the heft of Die Hard, because just reading Jason's book, as we talked about recently, like the way the levels upon which Die Hard is operating simultaneously make it a masterpiece. And this movie does away with almost all of that. And so if it had done away with all of it, maybe it would be even more successful.
I'm
just speculating.
Yeah,
here.
it's an interesting point.
The problem is, how do you
minimalism.
sell that movie? It needs some story, right? Like it just would be hard to do it otherwise. So I think this isn't me trying to say I think that either of these decisions would make the movie better. It's more just asking the question of like, for folks that are a little bit like, what could it be more experimental? Because in a way it is experimental in that it doesn't give you that much story. So should it have gone further with that, or should it have given us more backstory? That said, like, I think in a way this movie is like the perfect movie for now, because you can kind of watch your favorite parts on YouTube and then you're just kind of like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like you might not care about this backstory or any of that stuff. So I think it's really successful at what it's doing, but I kind of wish it was doing other things. And that maybe isn't a fair critique, but that's like,
that is pretty fair. I think that is pretty fair. I mean, I would like to just sum up this section by reading two quotes. One positive about the film and one less positive about two very important critics, because I think it's fair to be even-handed about it. One of them is from a very positive review in Vulture from Bilge Ebiri. Okay,
oh boy,
who liked this film and said, quote, once the action starts, and it starts very quickly, the raid is relentless, breathtaking in its sheer propulsive majesty, but it's also shot through with moments of bleak poetry amid the carnage.
Which is really a great, astute point, because it is. There is like beautiful like moments where it stops.
And it's interesting to think as well, if this film was set in America and there has been attempts at remakes and stuff, I think it's far less interesting. I think the fact that it is in an environment that we're, as Western audiences, less familiar with, that is more kind of exotic and more steeped in the tradition of martial arts as well, makes for a even if you turn the sound off, it's just interesting to look at this world that feels very different from, as seen through Western eyes. But here's a counter review. Okay, from Roger Ebert.
I knew it.
Yeah. The Raid is essentially a visualized video game that spares the audience the inconvenience of playing it. Some of the hand-to-hand battles are shameless in how they mimic video games. A fighter stands in a corridor and demolishes an enemy. As the enemy falls, another springs into position from around the corner, ready to be demolished in turn. Then another. It's like they're being ejected by an automatic victim dispenser. I thought that was like amazing. And he goes on, he said this film is all about violence. If I estimate the film has 10 minutes of dialogue, that would be generous. I have no prejudice against violence when I find it in a well-made film, but this film is almost brutally cynical in its approach. I think, but two things can be true. It's interesting that this film, which is so you can't deny, even if you don't like it subjectively, because it's pretty in your face. It's a pretty aggressive experience. It's taking no prisoners. If you don't like it, I think the filmmaker and the people are cool with that. They're like, yeah, this isn't for everybody. We're not screwing around here. We are going as hard as we possibly can get away with in terms of the level and intensity and the sheer amount of unremitting violence in this film. But at the same time, I think you're also allowed to just say, I get it. You've done you've executed it amazingly, but it's just not for me. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I come down.
Can I ask you if you've read the later follow-up piece he wrote?
The Ebert?
He wrote a
because I
defense
heard
of his review.
I heard about that, but I don't think I've read the defense. No, please.
Well, this is actually something
down.
I was thinking about when I saw this movie. He goes very hard. He says, let me find the line. It is much more of a critique, but then he's talking about, I can't take this much more longer. I can't function like a butcher scale. Is it enough to spend 2 hours determining if a film, quote, achieves its generic purpose? Shouldn't it do more than that? Perhaps provide some humor, humanity, romance, suspense, beauty, strategy, poetry. There are these thoughts, and this is the part that I had to take stock of for myself. These thoughts, some readers inform me, are a function of my age. I'm too old to appreciate a movie like this any longer. That might be true. It doesn't mean I lack the ability. It means I have grown beyond this stage. Now, I don't think I want to say that about myself in terms of growing about that, but I do think for myself, I wonder if I'm that's not the action movie I was raised on, a little bit. I think that I may have just come to this movie too late to fully, because I was watching Old Boy and a lot of those movies, these dark, cynical movies when they came out, and I struggle with them too, because this movie reminded me a little bit of the experience, and I swear I'm going to shut up and let Jason talk. This movie reminded me a little bit of watching Hostage, where I felt a little bit is that it? And yet I totally get, maybe I just need to shut the fuck up and watch a good kung fu movie every once in a while.
But what they have in common is this gloomy nihilism.
Yeah.
You don't leave with, there's no point to it. I don't know if I agree there, I don't mean there's no point to the film. I don't mean there's no point to the film. I mean there's no point to the story. The story has no raison d'etre beyond its own as an arena for violence. Okay, so for me, as a storytelling kind of, someone who believes that, if you're a writer and you don't believe that storytelling can nudge the world, to quote Tom Stoppard, then what the fuck are you doing? It can't just be about visceral thrills, in my humble opinion. I want to do something. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be a polemic, and it doesn't mean it has to be didactic, but it does have to take you on some kind of journey where there's some thought gone into it. For it to impact me as an art form. I'm not saying there's no point to the film. I'm saying the story doesn't doesn't really have a point. But I'm open. The prosecution rests. I want to give the defense chance to sum up before we move into the hero section, because I do want to give this is an important film, and I want to give you a chance to defend. We've attacked it.
Yeah, Jason.
Stick up for this film that you love, and tell us where we're wrong.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start by saying I don't think anybody needs to defend an opinion that they have on a movie. Like, Philip, if it didn't connect with you, I think that's totally fine. And I think any filmmaker would say the same about a movie that they made. Like, if you didn't connect with it, then you didn't connect with it. No big deal. The fact that Ebert had to write a defense of that was like, he must have gotten a lot of shit online for writing his review of that movie.
Totally.
And what he saw, I can honestly say that I did see some of the things that he had problems with. I also disagree with a lot of his sentiments. When he said there was, no suspense to it, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. There's a scene with a machete going through a wall that is quite suspenseful, in my opinion.
Dude, that shit's
there's
crazy too. Yeah.
Yeah. When you talk about the poetry of cinema, yeah, it's a brutal movie, but there are some beautiful shots in that movie. There's a shot where a shotgun lights up a very dark corridor, and you see the light kind of wash along these shadows on the wall, and the guys up above can now see exactly where the guys below are. And that is a beautiful sequence. So I think that he was discrediting some of the more impressive aspects of the movie by focusing solely on the violence and the fighting. Now, for the story, I will be the first to admit that it is it's not a great script. Like, I don't know what what's his name, Wehu, the lieutenant in the white polo. I don't know what his original plan is. What I've pieced together is that he is working as part of a rival drug lord to come in and help take this drug lord out, which is why he's kind of miffed at the beginning when there's a whole team of guys that come in too, because he's like, what are they doing here? They're going to mess this up. But I also don't know what his plan is if those guys don't show up, because it's literally just going to be two of them, him and Joe Taslim. And then what are they going to do against these hundreds of people in this building? So I'm right with you with the script. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in my opinion, I go into movies hoping to be entertained. Sometimes I will walk out with something more, and that's amazing. Sometimes I walk out with something that kind of like changes the way I think about things. But when I walked out of this, the story to me is just, how's Rama going to get out of this building alive?
Right.
And to me, that's enough, because all the other stuff that supports it is so entertaining to me. If they had given us more, that's great. But, I'm entertained by Die Hard just as much as I'm entertained by Skyscraper. Essentially the same movies, one starring Bruce Willis and one with Anna Nicole Smith. But, different types of entertainment.
The one for the real Skyscraper. We were all hanging on the edge of our seat expecting Dwayne Johnson. Instead, it was Anna Nicole Smith for the real DTV
the
heads.
Hot Die Hard. But there's different ways to view movies, and in my opinion, if I'm entertained, that's the greatest aspect of a movie for me. If I walk out saying, well, that didn't feel like it was worth an hour and a half of my time, it's because I wasn't entertained.
Fair enough. Well, you mentioned, Rama, talking about following him in this journey. Let's pivot into our hero section and talk about him. I did think, there's no shade on any of the people involved. And I think the acting I think that every aspect of the filmmaking is great for me. Yeah, except for the writing. Right? I think the direction, editing, choreography, acting, cinematography, music, everything was terrific. I just didn't like the storytelling, but I do think the lead actor is very good. Let's talk a little bit about him, and I mean, it is, we don't know too much about him, but he's obviously quite a big deal, right? This actor and this and a skilled, highly skilled martial artist. He'd been in Evan's previous film, right? Yep. What do you have to say about him, and why do you like this character and this performance so much?
Well, one of the things that I like just about the story in general is the way he was discovered. So as I understand it, he was discovered in a Silat documentary. And when he was brought on by Gareth Evans, he was like selling cell phones or fixing cell phone towers or something. He was like right out of nowhere. And he comes in, and obviously a name that I hadn't heard of when I watched it, but there's just something electric about the way he moves, the speed with which he moves. It really reminded me of the fastest fighter I've ever seen, Jet Li, just in a much different way. You know, you've seen Jet Li do karate, but I had seen karate before done on screen hundreds of times. I had not seen Salat done on film hundreds of times. So when I'm seeing these elbows, these knees, it was really quite striking. Obviously, there's not much to his backstory in the movie, but he does give you some small heroic moments along the way. At the very beginning, he essentially saves the guy that's trying to go up to get to his sick wife's room because the other guy's like, you know, ready to do him in just because he's frustrated at the door.
I like that character. Well, that's someone you can relate to, you know.
Yeah.
What would you do in that situation? Moral dilemma. That's interesting.
Exactly. And he works really hard to keep his brother in arms alive in that whole scene. And, you know, we see him at the end that he was successful there. And there's just a lot of small heroic moments along the way that I really like about him. You're right. There's not much to like about most of the guys in this movie, but he is a rare exception. Him and the captain, I think the captain is another one that's really good, played by Joe Taslim, Jaka. I think he's another character. He doesn't really do anything bad, but
he's Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat, in the newer Mortal Kombat movies.
Yeah.
So he's had they both have had crossover
tick
careers.
Mortal Kombat off your bingo card.
Yeah, I love Mortal
It comes
Kombat.
up now and again, every 5 episodes.
You kidding?
Does anyone want to scream Mortal Kombat when I'll get the techno kicking
coughing, no.
in? You were about to, and then
I just started humming the theme song in my head.
Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, exactly.
Do you have anything to add about this character or this performance, Liam?
No, I think that the movie defines its characters through action, literally and figuratively. And I think you're right that he's kind of the only. I mean, Joe Taslim's character is kind of compromised a little bit, but not to the full extent, right? Like everyone else is kind of looking out for themselves in this movie, and he's the one who's kind of only looking out for everybody else. And I do think it is smart that he has this sort of covert mission, like I'm going in to save my brother, right? Which is cool. I also really appreciate that I don't think the movie ever fully says that they're brothers. Like it never fully says we are brothers, if I remember correctly, or if it does it much, much, much later in the film, which I think is really cool that you're just left to parse that out yourself. And he just has his sort of character in the movie mirrors him. He's this guy that nobody had really heard of, and all of a sudden he's just kicking fucking ass, which is kind of cool.
All right. I think the only thing I would say, or another reference I wanted to throw in with the character that I love in a movie that I think is quite similar as the heroic figure of it or complex hero is the Elite Squad movies. The Wagner Moura character. I remember just even seeing the poster on that. There was something about who is this dude? He just looks awesome. And the character is really, really cool and commanding. And it's like one of those guy you would follow into hell. And it's a similar thing, right? Very specific subculture, overrun by crime, sort of slumlord type, gangsters that they have to take on and incredibly ruthless. The police, there's agendas, there's a lot of politics going on. So I guess I like this guy. I like the actor. I like the character. I just wish there was a bit more to kind of pull me in.
On the Wagner Moura of it all, there's a rumor that he's the next Bond villain, which I think is exciting.
Love it.
This guy is a Bond villain.
That'd be awesome.
Oh my God. Incredible choice. Perfect for it. Perfect to be the villain.
Absolutely.
In a Bond movie,
He's fantastic. Well, let's talk about the villains then. There's two main ones, of course. Ray Sahetapy as Tama Riyadi, the ruthless drug lord who is the boss of the apartment building. A little detail that I thought was cool was that Evan said he wanted a non-stereotypical take on the character, citing gangster films where the boss is usually wearing a pristine suit and smoking cigars. Wanted to go in another direction.
Works really well.
Talk about him first because he's very scary. There's no doubt about that.
Right off the jump, he's scary.
Thoughts about I guess you
that
meet
hammer,
him.
Jesus Christ.
What are your thoughts on him as the villain of this piece, Jason?
Yeah, I think he's great. I think that opening scene kind of shows us exactly who he is. He has no qualms about shooting people in the head. And I just love that the part in that scene where he rests the gun on the guy's shoulder after he runs out of bullets and he just says, "Hold this for me." And then he walks back and opens that drawer, and you see the bullets fall out into the hammer, and he picks up the hammer instead of the bullets. And it's just like, oh man, this guy's ruthless.
Sadist,
and you don't really see him
sadist.
do anything else throughout the rest of the movie, because he's just in that really great set where he's got the whole security monitor set up. But he doesn't really do anything else in the movie that's evil, but you're just so scared of him because, number one, what you saw him do, and then number two, how calm he seems throughout the whole thing. And when he puts that message over the PA system where he basically says, if you bring me one of these cops, you live here rent free for as long as you want, or, I'm paraphrasing, but that is such a cool moment that, now all hell is about to break loose. And he's doing it in such a calm manner. Even when he's got a gun to his head later in the movie, he's super calm and collected.
Yeah, my favorite thing about this entire movie is when that first guy kind of like whips the handcuffs under his feet and gets the machete, and like you're suddenly like, where the fuck are these guys? Like, I wish it did a little bit more of that, because like that setup is genius. Like, that's great storytelling. Like, we're like, oh, we're not in just like a place that a bunch of people live. There's a lot of sadistic fuckers living in this building.
And of course, if he is the Gruber of the piece, then his Carl is Yayan Ruhian as Mad Dog.
Oh my God.
The skill fighter who is the muscle behind his operation, who'd also been in Evan's previous film. And apparently said he wanted him to play a purely evil character opposite to that which he played in his debut film, in which he had a redeemable value. So I know you're a big Mad Dog guy. I'm going to let you cook for a minute, Jason, on why you put him in your top 5 henchmen ever in our episode of your show, Force 5. What is it about Mad Dog that really does it for you?
There's something about a person of his stature being as powerful as he is, especially in this movie. Everybody in this movie is taller than Mad Dog. And yet, he is the most incredible fighter on that set. In real life, I believe he was like, I don't know what Indonesia's like secret service is, but I know he trained secret service people in martial arts. So the guy is extremely skilled. And there's a theme throughout this movie where when he's squaring up against somebody, guns are too easy. There's a great line about, you squeeze the trigger. It's like fast food. It's
the best line in the movie.
Easy.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And he puts that gun down, and then he and Jaka have an amazing fight. And then at the end, he's fighting 2 guys. And a traditional thing would be, you want this guy one-on-one. But he's taken these guys out 2-on-1, 2 brothers, 2 extremely skilled fighters that you've seen. And they have to resort to a light bulb in the neck to slow this dude down.
Oh, it's so bad.
And he gets a light bulb in the neck, and he keeps going. He keeps going, and that's how you know how incredibly hardcore this dude is. And they find a way, just because he was so cool, they find a way to bring him back in the Raid 2.
That's right, he's
as
in
a different
2, isn't
character.
Yeah, I think he's the best thing about the movie, because I think he's the villain with the most sort of like personality. And I just dig it. I love the line about pulling the trigger is like ordering. Like, that's all you need. You get that line and you're like, I know who this fucking guy is. Like, it's like perfect. It's perfectly realized.
Yeah, very vivid character. Let's talk about, I mean, this seems a bit silly in some respects, but I think we were going to cover the action section where, you'd be hard pressed to not give it full marks. I mean, it really is one incredible action sequence after the next, staged and directed with incredible skill, unbelievably well done. I think for me at a certain point, just my visceral reaction, less of a sort of intellectual reaction, I just start to find it a bit numbing at a certain point, and I start to feel like I'm one of the victims of the violence in the film. I'm just being pummeled into submission. Is this Sound and Fury signifying nothing, or is this transcendent action at its most transcendent?
I want to see this movie in a movie theater. Is my response, because I think on the big screen. I remember when this came out, a buddy texted me and he was like, "Hey dude, my girlfriend just broke up with me. Can we go drink 10 beers and see The Raid?" And I had like other things go. I couldn't do it. But
You were like, no.
but that
Drink
was,
alone.
I actually kind of was. I felt bad. But that was kind of the thing, right? Like it was, let's go see this fucking movie in the theater.
That's
and like,
interesting. The context of that, though, because it almost feels is there some catharsis to that?
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think saying transcendence is actually the wrong word. I think is it action at its most elevated? Perhaps might be a better word.
It just kicks ass. I mean, even if you don't love it, it kicks ass. I think it's like, and this is an important movie in terms of like putting Indonesia on the map for mainstream audiences in terms of big action cinema, and it's made like an industry, you know, and the same thing is true in parts of Africa, and it's really a good movie for international cinema and movies coming specifically out of Southeast Asia. So like the action rocks. I think it's
I mean, there's no complaints here. Jason, your thoughts on this purely on the action level? Is there anything that you haven't already said that as to why this is so different, perhaps, and so special in the overcrowded market, or you know, art form or subgenre of action cinema? What makes this particular film special and unique and distinct?
Yeah, I'll say two things. First, Liam, I think you should see this in a theater, because one of the best things about this movie that we haven't touched on yet is the sound design and the way that things crunch and crack. And when you see that
Jason,
scene where he slips the handcuffs,
I just want to be honest. I'm a big baby.
Even those small touches, though, where he slips the handcuffs off and you see him grab that machete, the sound of it sliding against the wood out of the restraints that it's in is just masterfully done. So I think if you're a fan of The Raid and you've never seen it in theaters, you should.
I would make the effort to do that with this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And if you have I saw mine in empty theaters, but I guarantee that if you saw this at like the New Bev and you have a house packed, you're going to have
the reaction is going to be massive.
Amazing time.
Yeah, I know you're totally
amazing
right.
time.
Fuck, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good point.
Very true.
In terms of what I think makes the action special in this, and I'll be honest, like in John Wick 4, I started to feel a little of that fatigue, because you see it's a shot to the body and two to the head or whatever, and you see that over and over and over and over and over, and at some point you kind of become numb to it. But in The Raid, there are so many moments where I remembered kind of jumping out of my seat like, holy shit. And you don't have that in a lot of action movies. And it keeps doing that in each scene where it's like, oh my God, the neck onto the door frame. Oh my God, the guy that gets flung over the railing and then like back first on the cement pillar. It's like, holy shit.
The social clip for this is Jason describing this stuff and you and I being like, ew, my body.
Just even thinking about it is traumatic.
But that's effective.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's these moments where I've never seen anything that violent. How can they top it? And then they top it. And I had the same reaction watching The Raid 2. Have you guys both seen The Raid 2?
I have not. I was shocked to see that it's 2.5 hours long. So I'm like very curious to see.
It is. It kind of builds in elements of what he wanted to do with The Raid originally, and then the budget was just too small. So
because there was a much bigger plan
to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Yeah,
maybe I might check it out. I should watch it.
Rules.
If
not, just watch it for the action. Some people like it more. I'm kind of like right in the middle. I like them both equally, but there's a car sequence in the second movie that is one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Sick. And when you watch how he shot it and how he accomplished it, it's fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah, I gotta check that one. I'm gonna watch it.
Well, our last section of Anatomy of an Action Movie is the humor. And I did think about this because there is almost no humor in the film.
My lines in my review on Letterboxd was like, somebody throw a pie. Jesus.
You think about, again, I go back to Hard Boiled, right? Like an absolute bullet fest that's extremely violent that I love. What's the difference? One, the lyricism, two, the characters. But also, it's Hard Boiled's very funny. right? It's almost Buster Keaton level slapstick at times in terms of the choreography. And they even had a scene with the baby. Yeah, exactly. The baby peeing on tequila is it's funny, it's charming, it's juxtaposing extreme violence with extreme innocence. It's really doing something. John Wick's also very funny. Die Hard's very funny. A lot of the films that we've covered, Lethal Weapon, 48 Hours, The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, they're all very funny. This has absolutely no humor, which is a very, maybe not no humor, but very little. It feels like a very specific tonal, and it's tonally consistent in that regard. It's a very somber film, I would say. Is this film, I guess my question maybe to you guys, is this film better or worse if it did have some humor?
If you're taking it as I'm in a building full of these murderers and need to try and find a way out, I feel like the humor could be shoehorned in. And I've noticed that in a lot of these Indonesian action movies, there's very little humor. There's some, like Timo Tjahjanto has made some really interesting movies like The Big Four, which has some really funny parts, but and by and large,
His
they don't
movies
really
are
have
good.
much comedy.
Yeah, they're very like the Shadow Strays is like bleak. As far as this, it's like a horror movie.
Yeah, that one's got very little comedy. But if you're interested in his style, I would really recommend The Big Four. It is very good. It's action packed.
I don't want to go on too much of a tangent here, but are either of you familiar with recent Indonesian history? Because there's a very harrowing series of documentaries that are among the most amazing movies I've ever seen. In the 1960s, there was essentially a genocide against the Communist Party. And in The Look of Silence, in The Act of Killing, this filmmaker, Joshua Oppenheimer, finds some of the perpetrators and asks them to reenact what they did. And that's what the film covers. Yeah. And it is one of the most amazing documentaries I've ever seen, because in the 60s they killed all these communists. It's just really fascinating. And so like there's kind of it was a paramilitary group. So I'm sort of curious like I don't think there's a connection with this film, and I don't think they're trying to make one, but there's a lot of recent bleak history in it. Very sad bleak history in that country.
It's almost
two of those, by the way, two of those docs.
Yeah, Look of Silence is the other one. Is amazing
because it's almost as if, and you referenced Alan Clark earlier, right? And this maybe the last we can end on this point and then move into our fun award section. But there is a weird thing where this almost starts to click for me after you've said that, because it's almost like social realist action in a crazy way, right?
No, you're totally right.
You know what I mean? Not the obviously the action is exaggerated, it's heightened, it's sort of intentionally over the top, non-pejorative, but the tone is like this somber social realism where there's this it's almost objectively just viewing this social situation, this economically depressed building, and the poor, not necessarily economically poor is that, but also just the people trying to live their lives with dignity in this building, and these gangsters that have got control over them, and the police doing their best to do something about it, and they're also as flawed, corrupt, and blah blah blah. It kind of clicks for me in an odd way, actually, after you brought that up, because this is like a piece of the world, and this is the truth of that. It's the volume's turned up to 11, but this is the truth of this kind of urban reality in this country at this time and place, and that's actually like makes me kind of really appreciate the film more, I would say. You should check out these documentaries. They're harrowing, but they're really incredible works of art and really powerful, and worth checking out. All right. Well, putting such somber ideas to the side for a second, as we get a bit silly with our Die Hard Oscars, aka the Action Movie Awards, let's put on our tuxedos and mosey on over there. The first award I've got is the John McClane Yippee Award for Best Line. You already kind of touched on one of them, which I've written down here as pulling a trigger is like ordering takeout. Mad Dog. I'm ordering takeout line tonight. That's going to feel weird. Yeah. Rama, I thought this was a cool line as well, when Rama says to, we assume his brother Andy, why do you stay? And he says, for the same reason you stayed in that uniform, it just fits. Now, this is sort of maybe speaking to the bleak poetry that Bilger, identified in his analysis of the film. And then this was my personal favorite, which I actually thought was a lovely piece of kind of blunt force poetry. All men change with the touch of a gun barrel to their head. Rama. Oh,
This movie rocks. What are we saying?
Actually, what am I talking about?
Yeah,
this movie's
movie kicks
amazing.
ass.
I'm completely turned around on it. No, genuinely. I have, through the course of this conversation, I think, come to appreciate it differently.
That's what happens every time
You
we
always do
this.
that to me, Liam.
I know.
And Jason.
Well, and Jason. Jason's pointed everything out.
Thought an additional favourite line or a pick out of those guys? Jason, would you like to cast your vote?
I mean, my favorite's the takeout one too. I love, and I do love that line where he puts the gun on the guy's shoulder and says, "Hold this for me." I think that is so menacing, and he does because he's so scared of him. Even though he knows he's gonna die, he just sits there on his knees with the gun on his shoulder. That's just chef's kiss.
All right,
good
Liam.
stuff.
An addition or a final pick?
I'm on the fast food line.
fast food.
The takeout line. I think that is genius. I think it's great.
All right. The Hans Gruber Exceptional Thief Award for stealing the film. Our nominees are Ray Sahetapy as Tama Riyadi, the ruthless drug lord who's the boss of the apartment building. Joe Taslim as Jaka, who you mentioned before, the aggressive but honorable sergeant who leads the unit into the raid. Donny Alamsia as Andy, Tamar's consigliere, who's also Rama's estranged elder brother. And Yayan Ruhian as Mad Dog, the skill fighter who is Tamar's main henchman. Some good supporting performances. Tough category. Jason, which way are you going?
I mean, you know where I'm leaning.
I had a feeling.
There's only one guy I think
There's
we're all
only
going
one
with,
guy.
and that's got to be Mad Dog.
Yeah, it's Mad Dog. Yahan Ruhian walks away with this. He's
All right.
incredible.
Yep.
Such a distinct face and personality.
I won't disagree, but I do think there's some very good performances. The Dick Thornburg Award for Dick of the Movie, I only have one, really, which is the character we talked about before, Pierre Gruno as Wayu, the lieutenant who arranges the eponymous raid to take out Tama, but shoots a child spotter in cold blood in a failed attempt to stop him from sounding the alarm. It's just that, again, I'm glad you identified this. I just found his arc really confused. I just thought it was really muddled because I was like, if he had started as this is like the badass guy that shows up to a raid in his polo shirt and doesn't wear a helmet and is just like ready to rock and is like, you know, a really tough cop. And then over the course of it, you discover he has another agenda and you realize that maybe he's like corrupt or evil or has, you know, is doing something else. You go somewhere. But because you hate him within 2 minutes because he shoots this child spotter, it doesn't really. And then you start to maybe kind of like him a little bit, but not really. And then he's actually, no, the whole point was to get this guy and then he just kills him to get out of the building. I didn't understand that at all. I was very confused by it. And I thought it was a shame because I think the actor is very good. And I think the character had potential. I just thought the execution of the arc just left me kind of scratching my head. Mm-hmm. Did you guys feel that at all with him? Or did I miss something?
No, I don't think you missed anything. I feel the same way. Like I'm not sure what his arc is supposed to be, and I'm guessing some of it got cut out. Because I know that he originally had shot like 2 hours, and I'm sure that some of that got cut out. But
maybe,
I don't know his exact plan.
Yeah, okay.
To get out of there until he's like, you know what? He shoots the main boss, and then he tries to do himself in because he's.
I just didn't get that because I'm like, wouldn't you want to keep him as a human shield, as a hostage to help your escape? I just didn't get it at all. But it would make sense that stuff was cut that might have kind of connected some of those dots. Feels like some of the dots ended up on the.
I think also this movie's just like trying to, in a good way, just like let's fucking cook and like let's get through, the action of it.
Eliminate the plot as much as possible.
Yeah, just make it a streamlined experience. And that's kind of effective.
Well, here's my pick. Is there anyone else I'm missing that is worth mentioning for Dick of the Movie?
No, it's that dude.
We good?
That dude's
happy with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The best death. Whoa. I narrowed it down because it's about, I don't know what the body count is.
Yeah, did you have to watch this movie 7 times?
I've narrowed it down to 3 in the interest of time. Blowing up the fridge. Fantastic.
Fucking
sequence.
rocks, dude.
The brothers killing Mad Dog with the shattered piece of strip lighting.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Lieutenant Wayu unexpectedly shooting the drug lord Tama in the head, point blank. I was shocked by it. I just didn't understand it,
Yeah, I will also throw one more into the mix for consideration.
Please.
The main machete guy that Rama has a really great battle with, and in the end, he escapes a room using that man by jumping out the window with him and
Yeah,
lands
that
on
shit
his
rocks.
body on the fire escape down below, just kind of like paralyzing the guy. That is a pretty brutal death as well.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the guy who lands on his back on the.
gosh, this
yeah,
movie's
that's
horrible.
That's
Oh,
pretty
it's so
good.
brutal.
Yeah, that's that. But I mean, definitely getting killed with a light fixture or
Yeah.
a light strip is
Inventive.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that died that way. I'm just kidding. This is like ridiculous.
How dark
No,
is this
it's-
episode going to get? I think, it's certainly very creative. And, you know, in some ways, this film is almost like each sequence is like, how creative can you be with knowing that the sort of baseline of each scene is extreme, violent, in close quarters within in one building as well. You haven't got lots to play with. How do you manage to be so? It's a bit like, but what is it? The mother of invention expression, right?
Yeah,
like,
necessity is the mother of
exactly.
invention. Yeah,
In that respect,
I say as I pick up a light strip to stab someone in the throat.
very impressive achievement in that
totally.
respect of like how you could do a whole film for $1 million in one building with actors that most people aren't going to be terribly
it's
familiar
incredible.
with and pull this off is a remarkable filmmaking achievement. I certainly wouldn't deny that. Let's take one last break and then wrap things up with our final section of the show, the Double Jeopardy Trivia Quiz, where the scores can really change. We'll be right back. And we're back with our final section of the show, the Double Jeopardy Trivia Quiz. I'm hoping you all know the rules by now. Okay, you get 3 questions and you can have a clue. You can phone a friend, aka Radio Al Powell, for a clue on each category or each question. You work together. All right, question number 1. In Gareth Evans' TV project Gangs of London, which previous Dick Thornburg Award winner plays the patriarch Finn Wallace?
I watched the
I'm
first
seeing
season.
the guy right now.
Oh shit! Who? Give me
He's
a
in
clue.
Green Room.
He's in Green Room. He's in. Green
Isn't
Room?
he? Isn't he the drummer in Green Room? The blonde kid.
No, we're going. Do you want to? Maybe you should get Al Powell in to just kind of
let's call
clean
him.
it
But
up.
he's not
and
answering
clarify.
this
Let's
time
go.
because
Let's get
this
him on the
raid is
radio.
not approved.
Get him on the radio. He's buying the Twinkies. The clue is this raspy-voiced, barrel-chested Irish powerhouse played the role of obnoxious DEA agent Duncan Malloy in Con Air.
Colmini.
Colmini. Fuck.
Colmini is correct. I'm sure he's very proud of it. I mean, amongst his career to have that Dick Thornburg Dick of
Gangs
the
of
Award.
Phil, have you
on his
watched Gangs of
mantelpiece.
London?
Yes.
It's so fucking good. That Siege on the House episode. Oh my god.
Directed by Gareth Evans. One
Gareth
of the 2
Edwards
episodes.
episode. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That first season of that show rocked. I got to watch the rest.
Question number 2. Which former Die Hard villain plays the role of shady cop Vincent in Gareth Evans' recent Netflix action movie, Havoc?
Hang on, repeat the first part of that question again.
Which former Die Hard villain plays the role of shady cop Vincent
Got
in
you.
Gareth Evans' recent Netflix action movie, Havoc?
Timothy Oliphant.
Yep.
Is correct.
When the fighting finally started in that movie, I was like, "Let's fucking go!" I was so ready for it.
I've got to say, I was struggling a bit for questions, but we do have one final edition from Convoluted Corner.
Okay.
It's back. Havoc's cast also includes Forrest Whitaker, who has appeared in 3 previous Die Hard on a Blank films that we've covered on this podcast. Can you name all 3?
Blown Away.
Ooh.
Correct.
Panic Room.
Correct. I always hear the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music in my head during this section. We really should have upped the production value and pumped that in.
What's
Just
the
to add to
third?
the suspense.
Yeah.
Do you want to? Do you want a clue?
We got to get a clue.
All right. The clue was, you already got 2 of these: Boston, burglary, and Marbell.
Fuck. I don't know.
You got nothing?
Give me.
The answer
Give me another clue.
is Joel Schumacher.
Oh fuck! It's Phone Booth.
Phone booth
Yeah.
is correct.
I gotta get that number.
I didn't know that took place in Boston.
No, that
No,
was
Boston is Blown Away.
Blown Away. So it was Boston, burglary, and Marbell.
That'd be if the phone. I don't give a fuck. Get out of the phone booth if we're Boston.
What do you think? You're better than me?
What do you fucking think? You're better than me? I have calls to make too, brother.
All right, that about does it. Jason, we're going to let you out here before we do our quick intro. Thank you so much for outro rather. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for
this is great, Jason.
Sticking up for the film that you love. I definitely feel like I like it more now too. I really do, genuinely. I think you guys have really made me look at it differently, and it's certainly a film that I respect tremendously and appreciate, even if it's not necessarily my cup of tea. I still think it's an excellent film.
And a really important movie. I think it is as important as Die Hard.
Extraordinary achievement, especially on the budget. And a very, very impressive slice of cinema. Jason, any final work? Where can people find you? Is there anything you want to plug real quick before we let you out of here?
I mean, anywhere you're listening to this or watching this, you can find Force 5. Just look up Force 5 Podcast. I trust your listeners are smart enough to type that in somewhere, and
that's
they'll be able to find me.
FORC.
And yeah, if you want a good entry point and perhaps to pivot it, we did a really fun one about top 5 henchmen, where Jason surprised me with some amazing picks that I didn't see coming, but I was thrilled that he'd put them on. I'll just say this. One of them was a Transformer. I'll just say that. And I was absolutely thrilled with that pick. So
I've also
check that out.
had Jason Bailey on the show, who you mentioned earlier. He was on there doing, I think we did like top 5 New York films. I had Justin Liberty, who you mentioned. So I've a lot of great guests on the show.
Keeping it in the family. I love it. Well, thanks so much, Jason. We will let you out of here. It's been lovely to see you and catch up. And
thanks, Jason.
All right. Well, that was Jason Kleeburg of the Force 5 podcast, amongst many other projects. Wonderful to have him on board. We'll get out of here. Just a couple of bits of business. One, if you want to say, as the show is ending in 2 episodes' time now, please drop us an email at diehardoab@gmail.com for our final mailbag. If you want to say something about the show, as long as it's nice. Send us your relatively concise thoughts and we'll read out the best comments in the final episode. We've had a few lovely ones already that warm the cockles and touch the heart.
What's a cockle?
I don't know. The No Escape 4K, we've been plugging that to the point that people on the Patreon are like, do you get royalties from this?
Yeah. Are you guys making money?
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're doing it out of love for cinema.
We did get money.
We did get money to do it, but we're not getting
residues.
We're not getting residues.
I would love a residue.
Get one of those pink checks with like 13 cents on it that you get from the unions. Just a reminder that we will post the link in the show notes, but you can find the No Escape 4K featuring our commentary track via Umbrella Entertainment. The show is ending, as we mentioned. We have just 3 films left. Well, yes, three left. So it's more important than ever that you sign up for 48 Hours of Body Movies, even if it's only as a free member, just so we can keep in touch with you and let you know about potential future projects.
And tell you to buy the No Escape 4K.
Yes, and then hound you incessantly.
Until you don't leave us alone.
No, we don't do that. We provide amazing content for just $4.99 a month. You get 2 new episodes and full access to the library of our 48 body movies, which now includes 32 episodes on 32 fantastic films, including LA Confidential.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You can't miss that. We've got LA Confidential.
What are you doing? You missing that?
Louise.
What, you fucking think you're better than
Alien
me?
Nation, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. If you don't sign up for that, I don't know what we're doing here. Then the next one coming up is Gang Related. A movie I love.
Very excited.
I won't say too much about it just yet, other than that I love it. And next time on this show, we're going to Mega City 1 because we are covering Dread. The 2012 version of Dread, that is.
Look, I'm prepping. I got a Judge Dredd comic book here that I forgot I had.
I love it.
Zero, signed by the author. So that's exciting.
It's going to be really interesting. A very similar film in some respects to this one, but also a very
People
distinct.
love Dread. It's really popular.
I'm one of them. I am one of them.
I like it too. I've only seen it once, but I really liked it too.
I love it. That's all I got. Do you want to play us out to end the show?
I'm trying to remember a funny
Something
Dredd
funny
thing.
from Dredd.
Oh man, all the comedy
We'll be
in
back
Dredd.
next time
With 1994's Judge Dredd starring Sylvester Stallone. Die Hard on a Blank is a podcast from Philip Gothorn and Liam Billingham. Tyson Hubley makes our art. You can hear exclusive episodes of our Patreon show at patreon.com/48 hours of buddy movies. Rate, review, subscribe, and tell your action movie loving friends about the show. See you next time on Die Hard on a Blank.